All right, ready to move on? We're going to go ahead and pick up in question 7. You know, we've been through the first question about that we belong to God, and now we're working our way through what's wrong with the world today and why is it all messed up the way it is. And so we talk here about God's law, the way we're supposed to be, and we're not that way. We're supposed to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, love our neighbor as ourselves. We don't do it, and God didn't make us that way. So the next question picks up in question 7. Where does this corrupt human nature come from? Where did this originate? Where does it get here from? And it says this: from the fall and disobedience of our first parents, Adam and Eve, in paradise. This fall has so poisoned our nature that we are born sinners, corrupt from conception on. And so one of the ways you can think of this is like a river or a stream, right? If you go to a stream and you take a bucket of oil or a bucket of toxic waste or something, and you pour it in at the top of the stream, then everything downstream gets polluted. Everything downstream is affected by that. So the idea here is that Adam and Eve, the way the story brings it to us, and we'll just take that and work with it for now. Adam and Eve are presented with a choice. They have a choice to trust God or try to get what they want their own way. So in the garden there's the fruit, the apple, or whatever it is. We don't know what it is. It was fruit of some kind. And they are told, if you eat that, you'll become like God. But God had said, don't eat that. So do I want to be under God and listen to God, or do I want to be equal with God? Do I want to be like God? And so here we go, and there's the question. And they say, I'd rather be like God than have to listen to God. And so they eat from the tree. But then they become like the piece of the engine out of whack. They're like a cylinder that's come out of its part of the engine. And it's just thrashing around now because they're not in God's will anymore. And so God says, I'm going to have to take you out of this garden. And so from that point, something happens to our spirits. Something happens to the human race where we're not like we were from the hand of God. We are broken. And everyone has their brokenness in some different way. What is your temperament is different from my temperament. What you have problems with, I may not have problems with, but I have problems with things that is not a problem for you. Some people have problem with food, some people have problem with alcohol, some people have problem with drugs, some people have problem with relationships. Everyone's got something broken, and it comes to us, and it says, the Catechism says to us, it comes right from conception on. So at the very moment of our conception, we are already damaged, we're already broken. And that kind of would tell you that, our view about life and the origins of life, in general the Reformed Church holds that life begins at conception. And so the unborn child is to be given respect and care. And so we would not support taking the life of that child. And so we believe in adoption, and instead of abortion. You should receive the child from conception as a gift from God to be nurtured and cared for. And so, but that's not what it means to say, but it's a reflection of what it would say to us. So, verse 8, or question 8, it says, are we so corrupt that we are totally unable to do any good and inclined toward all evil. So is it said, well, oh my gosh, that sounds horrible. We're all broken and we're all going to do the wrong things. Is that, can't we do something good? And, you know, again, it's how you're looking at this. Our answer from the Reformed perspective is that you can't really do anything that's not touched in some way by sin in our lives. That there's always something about it that is slightly off, slightly wrong. That there's nothing we do in this life that is totally good, pure good. And you may disagree with that, and we can talk about that. But what it does for us is it says any good that comes out of our lives is a product of God's Spirit. And so it's not that we have done this, it's that God has done it in us. And that's a very basic difference, because if you go at it, I did this perfectly good thing, then there's this pride element in it. But if you have this humble element that says, you know, I can work at things, but it's always going to be slightly off, it's always going to be slightly broken, so it's never going to be pure good, but God can bring good out of it. That's a humble attitude that says, I need God to work in my life, through my life, and to bring anything good out of me. So it says, yes, unless we are born again by the Spirit of God. And so this idea of the new birth is something that you may hear people talk about, or you may have friends who say they're born again. And I think when your friends say that, what they mean is they go to a particular kind of church that is very active and maybe aggressive about getting other people to believe. And so they say we go to a born-again church. But the idea of born again is very, very old. It's not something that just popped up in the last 20 years or something. It goes back to something Jesus said. When Jesus was doing his ministry and his teachings, he said to a person who asked him about, what do I have to do to be in God's kingdom? Jesus said, you have to be born a second time. And so it gets at this idea of our brokenness as children of Adam, that we're born and we're broken. But we need to be born over so that we're clean. And so this idea of being born again is this idea that we go from being children of Adam to children of God. And then progressively through our lives, God is changing us to be more and more like we were supposed to be. So this new birth, we are born again. So if someone asks you, do you go to a church that believes in being born again? You would say, yes, I do. I do. Because any church that reads the words of Jesus believes in being born again. That we were born one way and we need a new birth from God so that we can live a new life. And so the Catechism brings before us the importance of this new birth by the Spirit of God. And so how do you know if you're born again? How do you know if there's this new life in you? And even as we say it, I mean, we kind of answer the question, don't we? You know, that you are born again if there's a new life in you, if there's a new desire for God, if there's a heart to love God and follow God. And you don't do it perfectly, we don't think that. We all have to struggle and grow. But if you are born of God, then it starts to show in your life. And so we talk about evidence of new life, evidence of regeneration. The Bible talks about when God's Spirit is in your life, that there is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. So if we see those things in our hearts, and we see those things growing in our lives, then that's evidence to us that yes, I've been born of God's Spirit. And but it's always something we can ask for. And if we're never, you know, if we're unsure about that, and we want to go to God and say, God, you know, I've got this birth from being human, but I need a spiritual birth. And God, I want to be born of your Spirit. I want to have this new life in me, so that there's something in me that pushes me towards what's good and what's right, instead of and fights against the things that draw me in the wrong directions and draw me towards bad. And so this new life and being born again. So if it's something that bothers you, you're not sure about, just talk to God about it, and God will answer that prayer. It's a prayer. God, give me your Holy Spirit, give me a new birth. But we can talk about that. So read the questions that I've got here, and see what you might want to talk about. Write any other questions, and we'll keep going as time goes by.